Another one-run loss for the Diamondbacks, and with the trade deadline approaching, suddenly every game feels massive. Just how important is this stretch for Arizona's season?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Diamondbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, George Lund, and this episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Now, as the time I'm recording this, a little bit of crazy news. The Giannis Antetokounmpo just got traded to the Miami Heat, so I got flooded with that information, and then switching completely right now to Locked On Diamondbacks, focusing on this team. As I'm recording a few hours ago, the Diamondbacks just dropped the first of this big road stretch they have coming up. Cardinals, Rays going into next month and the All-Star break. But first of all, they lose 4-3 to the Cardinals. Another one-run loss. They hold the most one-run games in all of baseball. I saw a stat earlier this season that since 2013, 30% of all MLB games have ended in one run or less. And just based on this, how this team is built, it's really important that they win these one-run games because the bullpen, the starting pitching, they don't have the power this year. So they're going to be in a lot of these games. It's just the way this team is structured. So to see them lose these type of games, just again, just a bad stretch for them here as of late with all the injuries that have come up. The Angels series, the Red series, those are a step in the right direction, and then losing the Twins, another step in the wrong direction, especially with this series coming up. And I want to talk about in a little bit just how important this stretch is for the Diamondbacks. I don't think it's going to really show where the season is at. I don't think this stretch is going to decide where the season, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's going to make or break if they're a playoff team. I don't think it's going to make or break if they're going to go to the World Series. But I think there's little intricate things with the trade deadline approaching about why this stretch is so important for the Diamondbacks and the outlook of how they're going to approach the second half of the season. Now, just speaking on the game in particular, Merrill Kelly got the start. Merrill Kelly, of course, has just not been great for the Diamondbacks at all. Had one of his worst outings of the season last time out against the Angels, just crushing every pitch, a team that sees fastballs really well. And Merrill Kelly's fastball and his cutter have been two of the worst pitches in baseball. I was looking at his cutter because I put a breakdown of it on Twitter a little bit, but just looking at that pitch, hitters came into this game with a 439 average against his cutter, a 927 slug, which is the third worst of a pitch in Major League Baseball. I believe his cutter is overall by run value the 17th worst pitch in Major League Baseball. And that was one of his best pitches all of last season. So it really just has been that pitch that's sort of been his Achilles heel because he relied on it so much last season, especially for the strikeout numbers. And it just hasn't been there this season. And he's only getting older. So there's not exactly room to tweak a 98 mile per hour fastball, but rather a 92 mile per hour cutter. So Diamondbacks need some more quality out of Merrill Kelly. Obviously, Ryne Nelson goes now, Michael Soroka goes down. I don't want to say that the bad stretch for Eduardo Rodriguez is coming, but the underlying numbers don't love Eduardo Rodriguez. So I don't expect him to keep his ERA in the twos all season. Now, he definitely could. He's been great at straining runners, and that's been a big reason for his success, despite the expected ERA of it being in the high fours. But I don't expect him to keep that momentum going all season. And then if Jose Cabrera is another guy you have every 5 days, can you expect him to be another quality starter? Either way, you're paying Merrill Kelly $20 million for the next two seasons, so they need him to be better than an ERA in the high fives or low sixes. And I thought he was better today. A quality start out of Merrill Kelly is all you ask for him every time out. 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. He got out of a bases loaded jam in the first inning, stranded a bunch of runners and didn't give up a run. Left the inning unscathed. The runs came in about the third and the fourth inning. So it looked like it might have been a little rocky start there where he gave up his 3 earned runs and more of the hits were consistently coming. The bloop singles and the walks, the control didn't look great for a while. But he settled in and turned out a pretty nice outing, in my opinion. And it really should have put the Diamondbacks in a position to win this game because the bullpen didn't allow a single run after that. So the Cardinals only had 3 runs all game, but it really was the offense again that let the Diamondbacks down. And that's been the story for a lot of the season and a lot of the story recently, as they've been one of the worst offenses in baseball over the last month. Pavin Smith, Geraldo Perdomo, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., and Nolan Arenado went a combined 1 for 14 in this game. Nolan Arenado was the only one with a hit. In his return to St. Louis, he got a nice ovation in that game, and I thought that was pretty cool for the St. Louis faithful to show him some appreciation for the nice years that he had as a St. Louis Cardinal. But need him to do a little bit what he was doing with the Cardinals on the Diamondbacks, as he hasn't been great as of recently. But I feel like Nolan Arenado is at least trending in the right direction, and he continues to be a force on the defensive side of the ball. Overall, the Diamondbacks went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. They had one more hit than the Cardinals, but they only scored 2 runs. Ketel Marte had 2 hits. Corbin Carroll had 2 hits. Tommy Troy had a 440-foot blast at dead center. I want to talk about Tommy Troy a little bit later on in the show, because some of the progression that he's shown, I think, is really improved. He only had a 500 OPS against right-handed hitters coming into this game, but a 1,400 OPS against left-handed pitchers. So clearly the splits are super extreme. So any trend in the right direction against right-handed pitchers, that's really good for Tommy Troy's progression. I hope he stays in the big leagues for a while. Obviously, Jordan Lawlar going down, he was playing center field, means Tommy Troy probably gets a lot more playing time every day. And I hope they continue to let him go through those growing pains against right-handed pitching, so he can continue to improve. Obviously, the Diamondbacks number 4 overall prospect. Also talk about the youth movement and where I think the Diamondbacks should go, as they've experimented with the youth movement over the course of the year, and why I think maybe some of these guys on 1-year deals and aging numbers in the 30s or the late 30s should not be a part of the Diamondbacks second half plan if the record continues to trend a certain way. We'll talk about that a little later on in the show, but in particular, after the loss, and then just kind of looking at this stretch altogether, how important is this stretch for the Arizona Diamondbacks at this point in the year? Now, if the Diamondbacks drop both of these series, does it mean the season is over? No. Does it mean they can't contend? No. But right now, they sit at 500. They sit 39-39. The Cardinals are 42-34 and currently sit atop the NL wildcard standings. The Rays, right after that, are 43-31 and lead the AL wildcard race. These next 2 series, in my opinion, are a huge measuring stick of where this team can go, what some of the decisions they might make at the trade deadline, because the Diamondbacks are now, after today, 11-27 against teams over 500, tied for the fewest wins against above 500 clubs in baseball. It's been the Achilles heel of the season. They've actually played well against bad teams at times, bad teams most of the season, but haven't taken care of business against good teams. To me, I just can't take a team serious that can't compete against the best teams in baseball. Not even the best teams in baseball. A lot of the National League right now is just teams that are floating at 500, right? So when I look at this team and I look at the trade deadline, for example, the trade deadline is August 3rd, and there's 6 teams within 2.5 games of a wild card spot, 3 teams within half a game of the wild card spot, and there's 3 teams in a wild card spot right now. So that means there's about 9 teams realistically contending for a wild card spot. When you talk about what the Diamondbacks should go do at the deadline, how aggressive they should be, do I want my team throwing away their future because they have to throw away their future because they have all this money tied to Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly. They're near the luxury tax line. They don't have a lot of money to work with. So you might have to go get a cheaper option that's going to cost you more prospects. Do I want the Diamondbacks throwing away their future if that means that they can't compete against the best teams in baseball? I don't know. I don't think I do. So I just look at this team and I consistently see them fail to play up to their competition. And it really worries me about what this team is capable of, what they're made of, how they're being coached, how all these things that go into this. I just don't trust this team to pick up the series wins down the stretch. I don't trust them to win the games they need to make momentum into the NL wildcard if they can't beat good teams. And I think this stretch will be awfully revealing because if they get kicked in the mouth again, then I don't see any reason Mike Hazen would want to be aggressive trading at the deadline, because this team just needs a stretch again against the Angels or the Reds to pick up any progress. And they can't rely on how their schedule is formatted through the entire rest of the year to have that happen. So it definitely worries me that they continue to get worse against teams above 500. And I think this is another stretch that'll really, really flash or highlight that in a bad way. But if the Diamondbacks slide in the standings, do they become less aggressive buyers? Meaning, do you just go get another player similar to Max Kepler at the trade deadline to just kind of add another depth piece for some lower level prospects? Because I just don't think the Diamondbacks are going to add too much salaries. I don't think they're going to add more money because they've talked about maybe shedding money at the deadline. They've talked about getting rid of players to kind of to buy and sell sort of all at the same time. You really can't DFA Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen. Those guys are making too much money, and I really don't think you eat those contracts unless it really does get that bad, like a Jordan Montgomery, for example. Because when you look at how long this core has, I think this stretch is a really big determination of how they go on for the rest of the season. Just what kind of players are playing every day. Obviously, like I mentioned, what they're going for at the deadline. The window isn't closing yet, but this isn't the youngest core in baseball anymore. Nolan Arenado is 35, Ketel Marte is 32, Eduardo Rodriguez is 33, Corbin Burnes is 31 and coming off Tommy John surgery. Merrill Kelly's 37, Lourdes Gurriel is 32, Paul Sewald, if you want to throw him in there, he's 36 years old. And at some point, you have to start thinking about the next wave, right? So with a bunch of players at that age point of really coming out of their prime here, you have to either capitalize now and go in on this team, or you have to take a step back and go towards the future. And I want to talk a little bit about that after the break here. Talk a little bit about what I think that youth movement is. If the Diamondbacks aren't big buyers at the trade deadline, what's next in the second half of the season? Does it continue to get worse? We'll talk about that after the break. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgia flavor back in a whole new way. This is that classic cotton candy taste you remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. I've always loved cotton candy, but I can't be eating sweet treats all day. This is a perfect alternative. Bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shots, available now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with licensed healthcare providers online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. When something is already uncomfortable to talk about, the last thing you want is a complicated process. Having the ability to start online from home makes taking that first step feel much more manageable. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonmlb. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris. Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. Welcome back. Talking about the Everydayer Club before we get on to more Diamondbacks. Get your Diamondbacks coverage completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in your show notes or go to lockedondiamondbacks.supercast.com to claim your free trial. Now, we talked a little bit about what this stretch means for the Diamondbacks, right? It's an important stretch, not just because this is a make or break point in the season. It's not the last week of the season. It's not determining whether or not they get a playoff spot or now. It's not really that black and white, but I think it changes how the Diamondbacks view the trade deadline. And I think in that it changes how they go after the second half of the season and in full the entirety of their season, right? So I want to talk a little bit about if this slide continues. Now, I'm hoping it's not. This isn't me giving up on the Diamondbacks by any point in matter, but I just think when I look at this team now, one of the things I saw on Twitter today that I think really I pointed out is that the Diamondbacks 4 through 9 spots in the batting order have a 75 WRC plus, better than only the Phillies, and 100 WRC plus is about league average. And largely in part, that's been That's been Lourdes Gurriel. That's been Pavin Smith. That's been Illdemaro Vargas. That's been Carlos Santana. Nolan Arenado. It's a lot of players that are aging and are on expiring contracts, right? So if the Diamondbacks have been that poor throughout the lineup on players that are aging, that aren't a part of their future and aren't helping them win now, then why don't they transition towards the youth movement, right? We already saw Ryne Waldschmidt come up. Tommy Troy's killing it right now. Lou James Groover is still up. Jose Fernandez had a really nice start to the year. And the Diamondbacks have already started integrating their young players. Ryne Waldschmidt came up. He's their number 1 overall prospect. He's just 23 years old. Tommy Troy, he's their number 4 overall prospect. He's 24. Lou James Groover, he's their number 10 prospect. He's 24. Jose Fernandez is still just 22 years old. Obviously, when he was called down, he was having a little bit of a rough stretch, but he had an 800 OPS at the end of April and could absolutely factor into the second half. Now, he's had a rough go of things in the minor leagues, but I think if Arizona falls in the wild card standings, a progressive second half game plan may make sense. Play the kids. Let them go through their struggling pains. Pavin Smith is a free agent after this season. Lourdes Gurriel is a club option after the year. Illdemaro Vargas is in the final year of his deal. Carlos Santana's deal is up after this year. Max Kepler will come to the team, but he's up after this year. There's a lot of players on the team right now that are gone after next year. They're aging, and they're not performing for the Diamondbacks. So what are they doing, right? And outside of Vargas's hot April, all 3 have been major holes in the lineup and offer long-term upside. So obviously Ryne Waldschmidt has had his struggles. Obviously Lou James Groover has had his struggles. Obviously Jose Fernandez has had his struggles. But if you're talking about the future of your team, those guys are the future. Those guys are going to be on the team next year in the major leagues and probably going to go through the full year next year. So why not give them the boost now, not let them go through failure now, because they're failing just as much as Pavin Smith, Lourdes Gurriel, and Illdemaro Vargas is. So you might as well get a little bit of your future. Now, talking about what the young guys need to show, right? I don't want to give up on those guys yet. Pavin Smith, Illdemaro Vargas, Lourdes Gurriel, they can still figure it out. And I don't think at any point they're going to completely give up on all those players. I don't think there's going to be a mass DFA where they just get rid of all these guys, right? But I think there needs to be a little more concern for the future if they go through another poor stretch, if they still struggle against teams above 500, because they have a lot of that coming up, and they don't go all in at the deadline. And I just would be really disappointed in how this year turned out if they didn't at least give the majority of these guys a shot at the big league level and let them struggle. Because what do the young guys need to show, right? Ryne Waldschmidt, the biggest issue right now for him is him handling major league spin. He had a 32.8 K percentage, he had a 6.6 walk percentage, and a 24.2 O swing, which means pretty much the percentage of swings he had on pitches outside of the zone. Let him play. Let him see spin. Let him adjust. The only way he's going to see major league spin is if he is seeing major league spin up at the major league level. He's not going to see it down in AAA. Now, I completely understood why he went down, right? Diamondbacks are trying to contend. They're trying to stay in an NL wildcard spot. Ryne Waldschmidt was not helping them in the short term. You bring in guys that Lourdes Gurriel, Pavin Smith, you bring in guys off the aisle that are probably major league players and can help you win now. But if the Diamondbacks get to the point in the second half of the season, they didn't buy heavily at the deadline and they continue to struggle, well, let Ryne Waldschmidt go through those struggles so he can be a major league everyday starter by next year. Tommy Troy, the same thing. He had a homer against a right-handed pitcher today, and I thought it was a big step in the right direction. Now, every swing matters, right? Oh, sorry, that is the wrong one. On my Twitter, I tweet a lot about, stats, updates, breakdowns. I tweeted today, Troy's growth versus righties will be a huge going forward. He entered today with a 1.406 OPS against lefties and a .506 OPS against righties. The splits are extreme right now, but if he's even league average against right-handed pitching, that's an everyday player. Now, I truly believe that because Tommy Troy has been great up at the major league level. They sent Ryan Waldschmidt down and kept Tommy Troy up because they believed in Tommy Troy, and he's given them a little bit of a spark as of recently. But it's clear there's still things for Tommy Troy to work on. Now, I think he'll stay up in the big leagues for a while because I think a guy like Barroso would probably go before Tommy Troy does, unless Troy just hits a complete dive against lefties because he's been so great against lefties. But his development against right-handed pitching could determine whether or not he's an everyday player. Like I mentioned, those splits are extreme, but I think if he continues to see right-handed pitching in the big leagues, those stats are not going to get better. Clearly, there's a lot of talent there if he's able to have a 1406 OPS against left-handed hitters. So just seeing right-handed hitters, seeing that spin off of that side of the ball, that will be really important for Tommy Troy. So like I mentioned before, there's clear issues with some of these guys, but sometimes the only way to do it is for them to see it at the major league level. Now I understand, this isn't a team that's at the bottom of their division, so they can't just go all in on the youth. But my point in saying this is if they're going to have these players in their mid-30s on one-year expiring contracts, and they're not going to be on the team next year, and they're going to play just as well as Ryan Waldschmidt, Lou James Groover, and Tommy Troy are, well, you might as well have players that are in there that are going to learn from their experiences and be there for the future, rather than these guys that aren't going to be around for the next time the Diamondbacks are going to try to contend for a playoff spot and bring the team down. So talking about these injuries, right? I really wanted to talk about, can the Diamondbacks survive all of these injuries? They have Lawlar down, they have Soroka down, Ryne Nelson down, Burnes, and a few others. I believe a few things has to happen for them to still contend. Those are more thinking about the rest of the season. I really don't want it to seem like I'm giving up on the Diamondbacks this year. I'm definitely not. I personally am a pretty optimistic person. I like to stay positive, especially on here. What's the point of me sitting here and saying the season's over in June? It's not October yet. It's not September yet. The season is by no means over. They have so many quality players on the IL right now, and it's just been unfortunate all these injuries have happened. But I want to give you an optimistic look at things. So I'm going to come back after the break, kind of tell you what they need to survive all of these injuries right now. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect with a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent, it's about having everyone work together towards the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Think about the Corbin Carroll extension just a few years ago. You can tell this wasn't a reactionary move. The organization had a vision, stuck to it, and now you're seeing the results because everyone was working from the same playbook. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. So looking at the good side of things, Diamondbacks still have Corbin Carroll, they still have Ketel Marte, they still have Geraldo Perdomo, Eduardo Rodriguez. The bullpen's been phenomenal. There's plenty of reasons to still believe this team can contend. I know everybody feels like the sky is falling because the Diamondbacks have lost a few games and all these injuries, but they're still just a few games back of an NL wild card. It feels like at this point in the year, they can win 84 games and possibly be in the postseason. So there's plenty of reasons to believe they can still make a run. And everybody knows in baseball, anything can happen once you get into the postseason. That's all the Diamondbacks should be aiming for it this year. I don't think you're going to be able to catch the Dodgers. Who knows? They've had a few players underperform, but for the most part, I still think there's plenty of reason to believe this team can get where they want to go. Now, how are they going to do that? They have all these injuries. Michael Soroka went down. Ryne Nelson went down. Jordan Lawlar went down. Burnes is still on a setback. AJ Puck was setback. Justin Martinez is coming back from Tommy John. You never know what you're going to get with that. James McCann should be back soon. Carl Santana should be back soon. Max Kepler should be back soon. But how do they survive all of these injuries? Well, first and foremost, Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly need to stabilize. If you can't count on 2 of your 5 starters to consistently give you a chance, then 40% of your games are essentially uphill battles. That's just the stats. That's the math. That's just how it works. If Zach Gallen is going to go out and give up 5, 6 earned runs, 9 earned runs, 12 hits like he did last time out, the Diamondbacks just aren't going to compete. Same thing with Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly's been a little more up and down in terms of he's given them a few good starts, but he's also given them some really bad starts. And there's a reason that the Diamondbacks are, say, 5th or top 10 in quality starts, yet they're bottom 3 in overall pitcher WAR, because Eduardo Rodriguez, Michael Soroka have given them some of the best outings this year. And then Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly have given them some of the worst outings this year. It's either been a blowout or it's been a 1-run game. That's just how the Diamondback season has gone so far. But Gallen especially, he has to figure something out, whether it's pitch usage, whether it's finding different shapes on his pitches, whether it's finding a new pitch. Something has to change. Not only is he making too much money to pitch to a 6.10 ERA, qualified as the worst in the big leagues, but he's pitching for his future in this league. He's on a 1-year deal. It's not like he signed that multi-year deal that he was supposed to do with the Cubs, but something's got to change for Zach Gallen, or else he might not be in the big leagues anymore. And I think hopefully he understands that, but there's a lot on the line for Zach Gallen, and the Diamondbacks need him to stabilize in some kind of way. And the same thing with Merrill Kelly. The Diamondbacks lose Zach Gallen after this year, and they'll probably replace him, and they'll be better off because of it. But the Diamondbacks are stuck with Merrill Kelly for another year after this year, after they signed him to a 2-year, $40 million deal. So they're looking at it right now: is Zach Gallen, or is Merrill Kelly going to be a part of our future, and can he be a part of our future? Diamondbacks can't come into a season knowing Merrill Kelly's going to give them another high 5.6 ERA. I can't imagine they want to. So they have to see some positives out of Merrill Kelly going forward. And both of those starters have to give them a little more quality and consistency going forward, or else there's really not a lot of reasons to believe that this rotation can hold up, because you're without Michael Soroka. Your Ryne Nelson was trending in the right direction, in my opinion, and he was eating innings for them at that. And then Corbin Burnes, you're not going to get to the back half of the season. It was supposed to be this big, strong rotation. That was supposed to be their strong suit. And it's ended up being the bullpen. I think as Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly consistently give them poor outings, and Merrill Kelly is good today, so I don't want to put too much slack on him, but the bullpen is going to suffer from this as well, for how good the bullpen has been. We saw it the other day with Zach Gallen, where Gilbert Diaz had to take over for Zach Gallen. He gave up 7 earned runs, and they couldn't get out of that 5th inning or whatever it was, because Gilbert Diaz was put in a really bad situation. He had, I believe, 2 runners on, and he had to get out of it. And it was his first outing since being called up, so it was the worst possible situation he could be in. But Torey, thinking at the time, somebody's got to give us outs, and the bullpen had used 8 arms the previous day because Michael Soroka got hurt. So it's just damaging everything involved. And the fact that Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen are making so much money, it means the Diamondbacks can't really spend or add a bunch of salary when they look at the trade deadline. They can't go out and get a Michael Walker or Seth Lugo, because they have multiple years on their deal and they're making 15 to 20 million. And the rotation already makes so much money, you're putting yourselves over the luxury tax right now. So those two have to stabilize. They're just making too much money to not, and they really need to at this vital point for the Diamondbacks this year. And of course, I talked about it a little earlier. They just have to beat the good teams in baseball. The Diamondbacks have to prove they can beat quality opponents consistently. I just can't take a team serious that can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't. Are you the Angels or are you the Dodgers? You know what I mean? They have to be able to beat these teams consistently. And the fact they haven't been able to, and it's not just, doesn't feel like it's a cold stretch, doesn't feel like it's a phase that they're in. It's been this way all season. It scares me about how they're going to be able to contend if they spend some prospects on some players to try to get better, because I don't know. I just can't take them serious. Though, I mean, they're going to have to go through these teams in October, and if they can't do it now, which makes you think they're going to be able to do it when the stage of the lights get brighter. Good teams pull off upsets. The Diamondbacks need to start doing that more often. So that's just another way. I mean, to even float close to 500, they'd be a lot better team, especially with how good they've been against the bad teams. The bullpen as a whole. We talked about how Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, how their poor starts have kind of put more pressure on them. But Arizona's played the most one-run games in baseball, and that's largely a product of the middling offense the strong bullpen work and productive outings from Soroka and Rodriguez. Rodriguez and Soroka consistently gone deep into games. Ryne Nelson has done the same thing. He's had a lot of standout outings, but this roster is built for these close games, and they played well throughout the season because the bullpen has been a pleasant surprise, and they don't have the power from Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor, and some of the other power guys. Geraldo Perdomo is not hitting 20 homers this season, so they're not going to be in these big slugging games. So they have to consistently have a good bullpen to keep these games close. When they get a good outing from Merrill Kelly, which is rare, when they hopefully get good outings from Zach Gallen, which will be rare, the bullpen has to hold down. Now, they lost a few games recently. The rubber match against the Twins, they had a game they lost against the Marlins a few weeks ago where the bullpen blew it. And those are really tough games to lose because you get a good outing from your starters. You feel like you do enough on the offensive end, and those are two rare occurrences. And then the bullpen, which has been so good all year, lets you down. That's a tough way to go down. Now, I'm a big believer that when you look at the stats, it doesn't tell the effect of how good this bullpen has been all year. They rank 16th in MLB in the ERA, but that just doesn't tell the full story. 7 relievers own ERAs of 3.18 or lower. 6 of those pitchers have thrown at least 26 innings. Brandon Ffaadt leads the bullpen with 15 or 14 earned runs. He's obviously down in AAA. He's going to be a starter. They've had a lot of players that have given up a lot of runs in the bullpen who aren't even on the team anymore. So the core of those 7 bullpen arms right now have been almost perfect. Now, Juan Murillo blew that game against the Twins the other day. Hopefully that's an outlier for them. And they've had a few other outings. I mentioned that game against the Marlins a few weeks ago where the bullpen hasn't been great. But there's more depth here than the overall numbers suggest. They've had so many guys pitch for them. I mean, like I mentioned, Yolber Diaz came in his first outing out of the minor leagues and gave up 7 earned runs. That just balloons the team ERA, even though that was largely Zach Gallen and you got put in a tough spot. But the bullpen has to hold if they're going to consistently win games and win some of these one-run games going forward. It just has to be a key part of this team if the starting rotation isn't going to be. Thank you again for tuning into Locked On Diamondbacks. Want to talk a little bit about it tomorrow. Max Kepler is coming back soon. Brandon Ffaadt should be coming back relatively soon. Carlos Santana. I want to talk about the reinforcements and if the Diamondbacks aren't going to make a big move at the deadline, well, they still have more coming, not just the injuries that we've talked about a little later, but I want to talk about those moves, what the Diamondbacks could be getting with Max Kepler. He's been really hot down in the minor leagues. I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I want to talk about the rest of this Cardinal series, the outlook. I'm sure there'll be more to talk about, plenty to talk about tomorrow. Then fast forwarding, looking at the All-Star break. I want to talk about Corbin Carroll. He's been a little slept on in the All-Star standings. What does that mean? How can he get himself into the All-Star game? Does Rodriguez still have a case? We'll talk all about that. But before, hope you subscribe, like, comment down below. I want to keep building this. I hope you follow along, listen along for new episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Diamondbacks ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedondiamondbacks.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio for your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. Follow me down below at G1 Media on X, posting more on there every day. Thank you guys for listening again. See you later.